Okay, welcome everyone. This is just a short, quick intro or overview of the Solidity programming or coding language for Ethereum smart contracts. And you use smart contracts to create dApps, decentralized applications. Okay, so go back here quickly. Solidity is an object-oriented programming language for writing smart contracts. Okay. It is used for implementing smart contracts on various blockchain platforms, especially Ethereum. And it's influenced mostly by JavaScript, C++, Python, and PowerShell. So I'm no expert in Solidity. I'm just giving you a quick overview. There are experts on YouTube. I would advise you to check out some of their channels. And yeah, so let's try and go through this quickly. I'll try and explain some of the code here to you. But before I go there, this is probably one of the best websites that you can use to learn Solidity. Okay. We might check it out in a moment. Okay, so I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to briefly from my memory what I understand about the code in this contract. Okay, so this is a voting contract, and they want to try and show the delegated voting functionality. So all Solidity contracts, you start this way. This is the version of Solidity. This arrow means the code is represented or refers to this version or later versions. Okay. Without this arrow, it's just this version that the code refers to. And Solidity is still evolving, so it's changing a lot from version to version. Okay, so this is obviously a comment line. This is how you start the contract. Okay, you denote it by the term contract, and then usually capital letter for the contract name and curly brackets. Okay. Struct is short for structure, pretty much, and it's very useful for creating entities or things. Okay, objects, pretty much. So yeah, I can pretty much say that this is similar to an object in other programming languages. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So struct voter, okay, and a voter consists of these characteristics. The weight in this sense, or in this case, is not the voter's weight, but actually the power or strength that the voter has in terms of either delegating or something related to that. I'm not too sure. Boolean voted, either 0 or 1. If true, that person already voted. So if it's 1, the person already voted, this voter. So struct is pretty much like a dictionary, almost similar to like what you get in Python. I think dictionary is what you call it, and it's weight, because it's got the weight and then it's got the value voted and then it's got the value. So it's similar to a dictionary, if I remember correctly. So address, okay, now these are the variables. Okay, and these are the variable when you define the variable. So this variable is of type unsigned integer. This variable is of type boolean. This variable is of type address. Okay, well, string. And unsigned integer again. Unsigned integer just means it doesn't have a positive or a negative as part of the value. Okay, It's just a positive value or a non-negative value. Yeah, and this is the index of the voter proposal. So yeah, that's not that important. It's just so that you understand how the variables work and their types. The yes and no struct. Okay, and the structs also have curly brackets. Struct proposal. So the similar again to a dictionary. You've got the name and then its value. Name and its value. So bytes 32 is a type of this name. The variable type, and again unsigned integer. So address, public, chairperson. Okay, so chairperson. So here I define a variable, universal variable. Okay, these variables are only defined within this proposal struct, whereas this variable is defined within the contract, so it can be used throughout the contract. I can call this variable from inside a struct, from inside a function. Okay, but I can't call this variable from inside a function because it's local, it's not universal, or global, sorry, global. It's a global variable. Public means on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain, this is publicly visible and at least publicly visible. I'm not too sure about accessible, but this chairperson and its value is publicly visible and accessible when it's relevant, when access to it is relevant, but it's at least the variable name and the value is visible publicly to anyone. Even if you're not the owner of the contract. Address means this chairperson variable is of type address, a string. Okay. Now this is a mapping. Okay. So if I remember correctly, this voters variable, which is also a public variable, public on the blockchain, is of type this. Okay, in other words, it's of type the mapping of an address to a voter, to the voter struct. So this voter struct contains a list of voters. Okay, and each voter has these values. So if you want to refer to a specific voter in this voter struct, then you are going to use this voters variable. Okay, because this voters variable will be attached, linked to an address, address as defined in terms of the Ethereum blockchain, and it's a long string of characters. So this address will represent a specific voter, and it will point to a specific count. I think it's this one, index of the voted proposal. Anyway, it will have an index in the struct voter, the specific voter, okay, which will be linked to the address. And I'm not too sure if this address and that address is linked, or I mean the same address. But yeah, you can check that for yourself. But this is a mapping, okay. So it maps the address linked to a specific voter to the record of that voter in this voter struct, or it adds the new voter value or entry or record into this voter struct. Okay. So this is dynamically sized array, which means, so this variable is of type dynamic array, which means If it was fixed array, static array or fixed array, it's one size. But this array is dynamically sized, which means it can grow. Okay, it can change in size, and it's also public. Okay, so proposals. So with every, I'm not sure what this proposals is actually representing, whether it's numeric numbers or votes. But yeah, this is a of type dynamic array and constructor. Okay, so create a new ballot to choose one of proposal names. Constructor is a it's pretty much a function, and I don't remember too well how this is used, so I would suggest you have a look at it yourself. But constructors are extremely important in Solidity contracts. Okay, they are used pretty much every single time in any Solidity contract, smart contract. So also public, so this constructor is of type, it's also public, and it's a constructor function. I just can't remember the exact functionality of it, but yeah, anyway, so as you can see, I'm not going to go through those right now. Chairperson, message.sender, this website, solidity.readerdocs.io, is excellent for learning Solidity, but or reading through, and then you can practice using this website. But you can start on this website. I wouldn't recommend. I would that first. I would recommend that you go through this website first. Okay. So for loop is used. This is how the format that they use in Solidity.